Over the past 8 years, funding for arts programs serving students in the Boston Public Schools has increased by more than 70%. In the newest effort for arts programs offered by the schools and community partners, EdVestors will try to raise another $2.5 million over the next 3 years. To tell us about the initiative is our guest from EdVestors, the president and CEO, Laura Perille. Thank you very much for being with us, Laura.
I'm glad to be back here again, Chris. Thanks for having me.
First of all, when you're talking about arts programs in this scale, this isn't just for a few kids who are really into the arts. This is more like, I guess, the average middle-class family saying everybody should have some of this.
Exactly. We really entered into this initiative out of hearing from families, from students themselves, and from teachers and school leaders about the importance of art in schools. And really here what we're talking about is the basic expectation that kids have math, they learn to read, but they also get some introduction to the arts, and it is a way that we can drive equity in closing opportunity gaps for our schools to make arts more available during the school day where all the kids are, so that every kid has the opportunity for a well-rounded education.
When you try to measure gains for students in this, what do you look at exactly?
Well, we look at a couple of things. Really early on, as I think we say repeatedly, we really look at the role of arts in closing opportunity gaps first and foremost. And we look at school climate and student engagement. Kids come to school because they get to play on the football team, because they get to be in the band, because they get to dance. And you can't teach algebra to a kid who doesn't come to school. So having kids want to be in that building with rich opportunities is what we were really looking at. We started with data and we looked at where we were at in 2009. And while 2/3 of our pre-K to 8 students had access to weekly in-school arts instruction, that was only 2/3. And more than 1/3 of the students didn't. And at the high school level, only 1/4 had access to any art at all. And I'm talking a field trip, a 2-week residency, not necessarily even a full week course. So we had a long way to go to spread equity. So the first goal of the initiative, launched in 2009, was to get weekly, year-long arts instruction into the hands of 100% of kids up through grade 8, and then dramatically push the access to arts at the high school level too.
One narrative I hear more often with sports is that you've got somebody who struggles with academics and motivation, and they find that they're really good at something on the field or in the court. What about the arts? Did you get that from the arts?
That is 100% the same equivalent. I very early on in my work in the schools met with a wise middle school principal who said to me that her job was to help kids find their passion. And if they found their passion, then they could hook and engage them in school right through high school graduation and on into college. And so whether it's sports, robotics, chess, or quite frequently in an arts-rich city like Boston, arts, that can engage and hook kids. And we find that it's particularly true for struggling learners, for students with disabilities, for English language learners, which make up a large chunk of the students in the Boston Public Schools. You can be successful, you can get engaged, you can be the top student, even if you're struggling in math, but you know how to play the clarinet. And so finding different ways for kids to show their full identity and feel fully engaged by school, that's what arts is about.
This is Being on News. We're talking with Laura Perille from EdVestors. Laura, what about the share of this between the schools and the partners? You're not just outsourcing these programs and having other people do it.
No, not at all. To really reach lots of kids, every kid across the city, our goal was really to increase public funding for arts teachers, to get more arts teachers in schools. And while this is a public-private partnership that involves the schools, includes nonprofit arts organizations who have always been part of the landscape in and out of schools, and also philanthropy. The Arts Expansion Fund that makes grants to schools and nonprofit partners is really about incentive. And what we were trying to do was encourage schools, make it easier for them to begin putting arts back into the school, but really push them with support around curriculum, professional development, and training to make different decisions with their school budgets around adding arts teachers. And that has paid off to the tune of a 5-to-1 return in the public funding increase, leading to an 80% increase in publicly funded arts teachers in our schools. That's 130 more arts teachers at work today in BPS school buildings compared to 2009. That's why 17,000 more kids have arts during the school day.
When this new initiative was announced, there was also a year update on the city's cultural agenda and how that's going. I guess you have to line these things up.
Absolutely. So it has really been very exciting for those of us who've been passionate about arts education and expanding opportunity to see the city under the leadership of Mayor Walsh, under the Chief of Arts and Culture, Julie Burrows, and many partners from the creative economy to young artists across the city engage in the Boston Creates cultural planning process. And you'll see that youth arts and arts education are a really important marker within that broader plan that goes sort of cradle to seniority, let's say, in all the citizens that we want to touch with more arts. Touching youth and doing so through arts education as well as through out-of-school time arts is a big part of the plan. And so being able to announce the continuation of this effort to actually move the goalpost and look at twice weekly art for kids and more high school opportunities is also part and woven into the cultural plan.
I usually think of EdVestors in connection with school turnarounds, at least recognizing them when they happen. What about the connection between that and the arts?
It really comes back to this notion that, you know, what we want, what many of us want for all of our children is a well-rounded and fulsome education. And that should be true in the city's public schools. So we want kids to learn at high levels around math, around science and technology and literature, but the research shows that closing those opportunity gaps puts kids on more of a level playing field with their peers. And arts is one of those ways. And, you know, as I've always said, it's hard to teach algebra to a kid who doesn't come to school.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Laura Perille from EdVestors. Up ahead, we'll tell you about a free educational event on prostate cancer. But first, this message.